Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am so excited. We almost did a podcast before the podcast because we just got into it before hitting record. I'm so thrilled to be here with a dear friend and someone who I just know, love, and respect deeply, Nina
Mm.
Everflow. Welcome.
So grateful to be here with you.
And as I often like to do with my fabulous guests, I would love to know how you want to welcome yourself into the space and introduce yourself to the listeners. How do you want to be known?
Mm. hmm I want to be known as a wild woman who is still decolonizing her inner librarian. I want to be known as one who is very much still in process and so tickled by the way that life shows up and expands when we are open and curious and looking for the magic. I want to be known in a way that touches people um in a way that resonates not just with their heart and in their soul, but as an invitation for them to feel life more deeply. I want to be known as the Course Whisperer, and I really am leaning into this playful, mystical lens of my service and work in the world as a one who can tune in to the inner story, the inner voice, the inner whisper of your heart, of your craft, and help you tune in so that you can share that work more um, in integrity to the voice. And I want to be known present here. I just drew a card from a deck that I love so much. And this one represents the root of air and is illustrated by plant ancestors. And I am very much a gardener at heart,
Thank you.
a lover of plants, a communer with the natural realm, and that element and dimension of life makes it so delicious. And there's so much wisdom in the natural world that wants to be seen and heard and played with uh, through our lives. And so that wants to presence itself as part of what I am bringing and offering and tuning into.
I mean, y'all, I do not play around with people who aren't just expansive, magical beings. Look at that. I mean, we could just stop right here and be like, just go sit with that. How does that hit you? And what I want to name right off the bat is just my appreciation
Mm.
for the humanity that you're offering up front. That dance, I think when we commit to reclaiming our true nature, remembering that we are nature and that nature is wild. Right?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
taught to be like, I don't know, I'm not a super duper. I'm a plant lady now, but I'm not like a plant lady. Um where,
You don't have
you
an
know,
indoor forest?
I am. I have cute little plants with witchy intentions planted at the root and crystals in them, and I talk to them and all that, but I don't know about the next level
Yeah. Yeah, I
gardener
hear
stuff.
you.
But I think we're taught to be these sort of like trellised roses that are very contained and very,
hmm
like
hmm
confined to the thing, the structures. And what I'm
Yeah.
hearing that I appreciate in what you're doing and what you're bringing to all you do is there's a there's a wisdom in our wild feral nature, especially I think as people who are living in as women in this culture to say, I'm not doing that. I have access to the librarian when I need it,
hmm
but
hmm
but that's not all that I am.
Right.
I
Right.
am a vessel for pleasure. I am a
Mhm.
creative expression that is changeable, right? Like there's all
Yes.
this beauty to that. And I navigate that every single day in my own life. Like am I being who I learned I should be, or am I being who I am? And I really appreciate and honor you naming that from the beginning.
Thank you for hearing it.
Yeah. So how do you commit to the
Mm,
wild path? Because
mm.
it's a cool idea. It's an idea I've been holding on to for a lot of years. I've believed in it. I've bought into it. I love it as a concept. And I think we all have our own way of practicing it in
Mhm.
this world that
Yeah.
doesn't affirm it
Right.
in a lot
Right.
of
Right. Right.
ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to think of it as like an inner outer practice. So that always start with the consciousness, like what frequency do I want to embody in the day? That is literally my opening thought for every morning because it grounds me in the sense of both my agency and in my intention, right? And so yes, I could move through the world complaining and fighting and pushing against all the things that I don't like that I have to deal with. Or I could be the thermostat of my life, setting the temperature, right? Setting the room around me, setting up life around me to respond in the way that I am showing up. And so that's always my first grounding space. And I've learned over the years that in order for me to hold that frequency all day, I need at least an hour of meditation. I need at least an hour first thing in the morning by myself. And if I don't protect and commit to that time, everything else goes sideways. And
Yeah.
it demonstrates that over and over and over again. And so it has really been a funny dance, really, with myself to be like, yeah, well, you skipped out or you rushed through, and that is now showing up as something getting dropped or someone being really disappointed in you or you being overly self-critical today, right? Like all of those kinds of things if I don't attend to that quiet time first thing in the morning. And then I've also learned that in order to enhance that quiet time, I need to go to bed on time. So now I have an evening ritual to make sure that that is set up for the morning, right? So it really has been a practice of orienting my life towards what is going to allow me to be in the frequency that I want to be in every single day. And that has required me to make some really hard choices about who I want to be in relationship with, who I want to live with, how I want to be in relationship with money, where I want to live, on what land, and all those kinds of really hard adulting choices about how I want to be employed or serve, in kind of create my career have really been the hard choices to make in terms of like how am I going to orient to being an authority in my life, the centralizing authority in my life, and that means I have to care about how I feel and make and protect boundaries for what is healthy and nourishing for me. And that has literally been a whole life's journey, every day, every moment, failing and then trying again and failing and trying again, right? So we learn from the failures, and now I don't like critique myself when I'm just like noticing, oh yeah, I didn't show up as grounded there. So I'll do better tomorrow. So let's make sure we go to bed on time, right? Like it's just like again, always that ongoing invitation. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you and I bond over our big thinking and visions for the world and all of this. And I love having conversations about how we're embodying the world we want.
Mhm.
And I think there is a very clear need to look at the systems and structures out there that are failing and
Yeah.
need to and are harmful, all of that. And what I hear in what you're saying is I am building systems and structures in my own life, in my
Mhm.
own commitments, in my own boundaries, in my own choices that support what I value. And I get to be a core value and my
Yeah.
peace and my wellness and my
Yeah. Right.
groundedness. And I really just feel the need to like underline and highlight that for
Yeah.
everyone who's listening because it's a time of overwhelm. It's a time when we feel
Absolutely.
helpless in a lot of
Absolutely.
ways. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that I really do believe matters so much more than we
hmm
realize. Like,
hmm And it's not about, right, like distancing yourself from the negativity and the pain
no.
and the real violence that is happening in the world right now. And I know a lot of people will in interpret I need to take care of myself as let me put the walls up around the world and not and disengage, right? And that is absolutely not my practice.
No.
I don't have the choice to have that experience in America in 2020 what year 2026. And so it is about cultivating capacity, right? And that's what I've learned a lot about your work is around how do we hold that we're witnessing state sponsored terrorism, right?
Yeah.
How do we hold that there is ongoing news about the destruction of the environment? How do we hold that there are, so much sexual harm, like systemic behind a lot of our politicians right now? Like, how do we hold our capacity to witness and notice and own that we have been blindsided, right? To own that we have been like not wanting to look, not wanting to participate. And what's the opportunity now to, as we're awakening to the truth of what our global systems are really built upon, and to still commit to our practice to stay grounded to the earth and to our inner knowing that I think so much is seeking to emerge in the cracking of all of these systems. And you need both, right? We need more of us awakened ones to engage both ways, inner and outer. Absolutely, period.
Yeah, and I've seen over the years, and I imagine you have as well, activists, people who identify as activists, being some of the most depleted, burnt out people
hmm
around. And my vision, my dream is people who are rooted in their hearts and in a vision that is humanity forward are resourced, because
Yeah.
this is beyond a marathon. I don't know. It's like those folks that run like hundreds of miles for fun. I
Right.
don't get it, but that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And we need to stretch. We need water.
Yes.
We have to
Absolutely.
be resourced
Absolutely.
to stay,
hmm hmm
because it's gonna
hmm
be a long thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I find that, especially because of the stories that culture that we're kind of steeping in, there
hmm
can be a lot of shame around things like
hmm
rest and boundaries and disappointing others and things like that. And I just like to keep framing it as you so beautifully have, like, that's essential for us to stay as active participants in building the world we want to see. It's
hmm
non-negotiable. Like,
hmm Absolutely.
otherwise we're just reacting to it, and that doesn't get us
Yes.
anywhere.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's also
Yes.
just not, it's
Yes.
just not forward moving when we're
Right.
in that
Right.
reactivity.
Right.
And when
Right.
we're tired, like my hangry self, my tired
Yes.
self, I don't want her showing up to what matters. She is not good.
She's not a fun person to be around.
She's not a good look. She's not gonna call in support. She's just gonna be kind of
Yeah.
prickly and
Yes.
and
Yes.
that, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
there is this sense of, we must,
hmm
not at the
hmm
expense of the bigger
hmm
movement, but in
Yeah.
service of. And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what I
Yes.
hear. And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I
I
just really
love that.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you named like the limitations of reactivity and staying in that space. And like I consider myself a social activist for most of my life. Literally, I grew up going to protests. I grew up like training people around racial reconciliation. And so it's just like this stuff is in my bones. I literally come from generations of activists, right? And I absolutely see that people give and overgive from a state of depletion and urgency, right, to reacting to the latest trauma. And I feel like that orientation conflates, right? Like it collapses. It collapses imagination. It collapses capacity to dream beyond this this trauma field that we kind of exist within. And so, yes, to nourishing yourself, to hydrating yourself, to resting your body, because we need you to dream up what is next, right? And that doesn't happen from a stressed out, overwhelmed, overworked, addicted to productivity for the capitalist system. So yes, we have to have better expectations, right? Like in and care for ourselves and for each other. And one of the things that I think about in this sense, and I'd be really curious for your perspective on this, is like that like addiction to overwork and the relationship to like bodily shame. I wonder like what how does that influence then what we're seeing around like just this degrading sense of like the human body, right? And especially for like spiritual people who say like we're all one, love is all there is, right? But our behavior isn't showing up that every single life is sacred, right? Like our system is built on exploitation. So when we buy a shirt in, a name brand store that was made by somebody in a factory in Guatemala, like we are exploiting that individual, right? But because of the distance, we like to imagine that that's not happening. But if we really believed that every life was sacred, we would choose to consume attire differently. And I just wonder, I sit in that curiosity often about like, are my choices in alignment to this core value that I believe all lives are sacred? And how does that determine how I'm going to move through my day today?
Well, of course, I have thoughts about all that,
Of course.
and probably far too many to explore in this podcast. But what comes up for me most when I hear that is this core teaching that so many of us, I know myself as a white woman, was really taught is um, abandonment of my relationship with my body and shame and criticism of my body and a lack that leads to a lack of trust of my body. And a lot of my work and part of why I integrate somatics and things like that is our body is the best bullshit detector for
Mm,
our intuitive alignment or misalignment. It is
mhm,
what
mhm.
shows us the discomfort that is so essential
Yes.
when
Yes.
life is wrong,
Yeah.
when suffering is in front of us. Like we were taught so early. I think so early that we don't, most of us have consciousness around it unless we've been trained to build consciousness around it, to be able to just bypass it,
Mhm.
and there's a number of, addictive patterns from overwork to drugs to shopping to spiritual bypassing. Like it's
Yeah.
all a way of avoiding that gritty
Mm,
visceral, like nauseous discomfort of this is not right in my being. And I think that's a big part of why I try and listen to my body. That's one of my highest commitments, not because it's just a cute spiritual idea, but because my brain will lie to me. My my patterns, my adaptive patterns will be like, no, it's totally fine. I'm doing
it's
this thing.
fine.
I'm
It's
gonna work it out.
fine.
I'm gonna la 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 la. But my body will be like, no,
That's
no.
foul. We're
That
not,
is a
we don't like
no.
it.
That is an N to the O, right? And so I
Love
think
that. I love that.
that like people getting back and going back to what you first said when you introduced yourself, that's where our nature lives. That's where our
Mm.
our um natural intelligence
Mm-hmm.
resides, is
Mm-hmm.
in our
Yeah.
bodies.
Right.
And that's how we
Right.
know. And
Yeah.
reclaiming that sometimes makes
Absolutely.
us look feral,
Yeah.
sometimes makes us
Yeah.
look messy, sometimes
Yeah.
often, who am I kidding?
Yes.
Often. We will disappoint people. People will judge us, all of the
Yes.
things. And
Right.
built for me is
Yeah.
building nervous system capacity
Mm-hmm.
to allow all of that to
Yeah.
exist
Yeah.
and still
Yes.
listen to me, still
Yeah.
listen to my creative intelligence that wants to guide me.
I love that. I love that so much.
So the body. That's my
Yes, the
long way of
body.
saying the body.
Mm-hmm. The body because it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I just see it as it's probably the biggest reclamation of my life is to
Yeah.
befriend my body so that she can
Mm-hmm.
guide me. She can
Mm-hmm.
call me out
Mm-hmm.
on my shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're in
Right.
these weird skin bags for a reason.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we'd just be
absolutely.
souls having a great time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that so much. I love that so much. And I feel similarly too that the body has been my greatest teacher, guru, guide of like what is true. And I'm thinking now about just even my journey of like I had after my second son was born, I had chronic yeast infections for 6 years, like monthly, and they were excruciating. And it literally brought me to my knees in terms of how do I need to be in a different relationship with this sacred space of mine that I love so much, but is creating so much sensation of a different kind. And and it brought me to a place of like I had to get again that librarian to disassociate like that she was the one leading, the one always in control, the one who had a prescription problem solve for everything, right? And being like, you are just a part of me, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you have provided, how we have navigated systems and relationships because you're really, really smart. But you are not like, I love what you just said. You're not always telling the truth. And I cannot trust you about this thing that's happening in our body. That something is off significantly, and we have to attend to it. And that means we have to change our behavior. And that means we have to learn to trust and listen to what the body is saying. It has been such a beautiful journey.
Yeah. And that listening, I think we often aren't even taught how to listen to the body. We're
Yeah.
taught to control and interpret it. We're taught
Yes.
to manage
Yeah.
it. We're not
Right.
taught to just
Right.
sit in the, I mean, I had health issues over the past few years. I was, in a marriage that was ending that I didn't want to end. I was all these
Hmm.
misaligned things, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was committed because that's who
Yeah.
I am as a committed
Yeah.
person.
Right.
I look back and I lovingly laugh at myself when I'm not
Hmm.
judging myself, right?
Hmm.
Because I have
Hmm.
different parts. And it's like, look at I was buying the supplements. I was trying to figure out the spiritual emotional cause. I was trying
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than when I finally, I mean, I'm not going to say when I finally let go. Life made me let go. And then I could see, and I went, "Oh, dear heart, you've been
Yeah.
getting louder and louder because I couldn't
Yeah.
hear what you were trying to say. I
Yes.
couldn't decipher it."
Yes.
And
Yes.
and then when I did, and I kind of learn a
Mm.
new thing about my body, oh, it likes
Hmm.
to do this when this, oh, okay, it's
Mm.
like learning a new language. And
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
it's inherently messy. It's something you
Yes.
decode. It's a puzzle, but not
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
sort of like
Yeah.
dig in like a deep
Hurting towards.
massage.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And there's a nuance to that because what
Yeah.
I've learned, good, bad news, is the more you press the body, the more you're like, show me, tell me, the more it's like, absolutely not. You are not safe. You are trying to manage me. I have nothing to say to you while you're in this state. But when we sit next to it like on a park bench and go, God, I don't even know
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on here. Do you have
Right.
anything you want to share?
Yes.
Sometimes we
Yes.
get some really incredible guidance.
Yes. So good. So good. That's the gift of surrender, right? Surrendering to that wisdom that is beyond the mind that gets trained. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's the practice. I
Mhm.
practice that every day more times than I can count.
Yeah.
Where am
Yeah.
I trying to manage or control my
Yes.
experience?
Yes.
And where am I
Right.
allowing a deeper or a greater intelligence? Because I think it's
Mm.
both, right? Like my
Hmm.
body has
Hmm.
things to say,
Hmm.
and then the universe
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
having things to
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that
Uh,
neurological and cultural tendency
mm-hmm.
goes deep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I would love to talk about, well, I have a list of a lot of things, but I want to ask you about the term sacred craft that you're using to
Mhm.
describe aspects of your work. And I immediately have assumptions of what that could mean, but I really would love to hear you speak to what is sacred craft in your sense and why does it matter right now?
Mm, mhm. I define sacred craft as the gifts, the expressions, the service that is seeking to emerge through you at this particular moment. So at any moment, all of us can have multiple crafts seeking to express. And so it's about learning how to listen, like we've been talking about, learning how to cultivate a safe space in your body to tune into that whisper that's saying, like, to show up in a different way in your leadership, in your facilitation, in your training, in your coaching, in your hosting of other people through great change. Because a lot of my career has been in holding space for people to reimagine a different version of themselves. And so now, as I support leaders and founders in reimagining signature offers or programming that they are delivering to serve their message and serve their people, it's really about listening inward to what is next. And what is next may not be a new thing, it may be a new embodied way of being or combination, right, of both. And so it's really been such a beautiful journey for me to move through my own orientation of work, of not just being fixated on what is the asset that I have designed and now put out there, right, in the digital realm, and like, yay, pat on the back for me that I made a thing. I am being productive for capitalism. And like those are all beautiful things, and our lives cannot be oriented towards doing that, right? It's superficial, you'll burnt out, and it won't be satisfying when we're talking about how do we touch the depths of ourselves. And the term sacred craft came to me after meditating on one of my favorite philosophers, Howard Thurman, and his beautiful quote about, that the world doesn't need more of what it's reacting to. It needs more of us to come alive, right? And that aliveness, that spark, that glimmer, that is like, right? All of us feel that. It's nourishing our capacity to hold space for that more of the time, right? And that's why I'm so fascinated by metaphysics and ancient philosophies, because they had a language for naming that spark, those glimmers. And when you, at least my interpretation, like, yes, there's a lot of explanations and intellectualizing of it, but when you come back to like, what does it feel like in the body? It feels like aliveness. And that's why I love Thurman's quote so much, because it is the expression of us blooming in our life. And when we stop efforting around it, right, we have an opportunity to partner our effort with that aliveness, and you get beautiful, beautiful results that aren't just based on output. They're the journeying and the process of the bud flower blooming. And that's what I really want the feeling tone of my work to be. A bud blooming, blooming fully. And yeah, and so that's what I think about it. And I think it is necessary now because so much of our social, I would say, like, trust-based orientations are crumbling. Like if we think about the religious organizations and so many people leaving Christianity to return back to ancient ways of knowing. When I think about, just what's happening, not just in US politics, but really globally, and there's this contraction, right, about conservatism and safety and division, because there's so much fear, right? But the cracking is happening of like who we trust. And it's an invitation to come back to, I don't trust myself. And that's the first flawed premise, right, that you were describing earlier. So I think it now is the perfect time for those of us who are tuned into our whispers to become more bold and audacious about sharing those in the world right now, imperfectly, messy, and just loud and taking up space because, like, literally, the world needs this medicine, needs your medicine. You need your medicine, but it's not just for you, it's also for the world around you.
Yes. So, I'm going to back up to something you said earlier because I want you and I to be able to be so real with the people that are listening. So,
Hmm.
if I could be in
Yeah.
a forever spring, blossoming and budding and emerging creatively, I would
Hmm.
choose it.
Hmm.
What I have had to learn, and a lot of what my next chapter of work is focused on, is how to be in the phase that comes before that. The
Ooh, yes.
the um the the I think about the butterfly. And
Mhm.
I didn't know for years, I'm embarrassed. I did not know that it went to complete goo before it became the butterfly. I thought it just kind of shrunk and then grew wings. And then a few years ago, I learned, oh my gosh, no, it goes to nothing and then it becomes a new thing. But what I really got excited about learning is that in the chrysalis, and you may already know this, there, when it is goo, a
Hmm.
booger of sorts, there are these things called imaginal cells. The
Hmm.
imaginal cells hold the blueprint. And they
Yes.
start to emerge and start to try to kind of do their thing. And they are initially attacked by the other cells as like an immune response. Like, no, this is not what we're doing. This is not who we are. But
Right.
they come together. And when
Hmm.
they come together, there is a strength. And then they sort of win the battle of becoming.
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
felt that feeling in
Hmm.
myself more times than I can count, and I
Yeah.
still do not like it. I believe in it. I know it's a thing, and I really don't like it. It's super uncomfortable. And I'm going to be talking much more publicly about how to be in that space that is essential, I believe, for the true creative intelligence to emerge,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, we're just performing the same old shit in a different costume.
Totally.
So
Yes, yes,
how
yes,
do
yes.
you
Hmm.
navigate that uncomfortable part before the really cool new bloom comes?
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm. Hmm. For me, the framing starts with a conversation with myself about divesting from colonialism. And I know not everybody uses this framing, but this works for me in terms of thinking about how has my family is um, identifies as African American. I have done a lot of genealogy over the last few years, so I have traced records from, being from the Southeast for at least 8 generations, right? So my people are from the Americas. And when I think about all that we have traversed, slavery, genocide, land theft, assimilation, navigating corporate America, right? Like all of these layers have um have invited in me like this way of that I have to heal from. And I think I've told you this story, but I'll share it here as well. Is like in the process of learning some of my genealogy, I discovered that I have a family member who owned other people, right? Ran a concentration camp also known as plantation in South Carolina, for 20, 30 years before the Civil War. And the process of healing that I had to go through in acknowledging that that was part of my DNA, part of my family story, right? Both the oppressor and the oppressed, was a gift then in highlighting how we have to divest from that whole framework, right? Like that's not the only thing going on here. This binary of you're oppressor or oppressed, right? There's so much else going on in life. And so it is getting myself out of the binary. That is the practice that has helped me step towards what else is going on, right? What else is there? What else am I here to express? Because and then I can recognize like when someone is in an argument about whose lives matter more, right? And then it's just like it's like, oh, there's a binary. They're just stuck in a binary. Or maybe I'm like judging my mother for showing up in a certain way. I'm just like, do I think she's a terrible person or she, like if I'm recognizing those binaries and how I am navigating my own life, then I can recognize this is colonization's worldview trying to contain my energy, my spark, my imaginal cells, right? Like they are trying to limit how those get expressed as one or the other. And I don't want to play in that box. And so I have to take my own energy out of that dynamic. I don't ignore that that dynamic is happening, but I also uh, intentionally choose to not participate as best I can, right? And it's messy and I get it wrong all the time. And sometimes I get it right and I can feel good for about 5 minutes before I then fall back into some practice that is just like questionable. But I think that has been a really helpful framing for me um, to recognize my inner conditioning that is, like I said, generations deep, that then also helps me lean into the imagination, lean into the daydreaming of what is the beloved community that MLK got a glimpse of. I want to imagine what that is like. What does that feel like? And I'll tell you, Megan, I had this experience of tapping into it just recently. I'm sure you've heard about the Walk for Peace from the monks in Texas who have been walking through the Southeast up to Washington, D.C. And so they came through my area. And so I took my boys and we waited outside in 25 degrees for over an hour just to get a glimpse of
Yeah.
these holy men walking all this distance. And as we were waiting, I went into a meditative state, just like so grateful to be in community, but be like we're literally in the street, literally in the cold, and yet all of these Americans of all shapes and sizes, languages, skin tones, right? We're all waiting for this frequency of loving kindness. And it brought tears to my eyes just in the recognition of just like, this is what MLK touched, right? Like, this is what it could look like. This frequency of people showing up, stopping all the things they were doing in their lives to be like, this is the most important moment for my life right now, is to be here, is to contribute my frequency, my energy to magnify what these monks have decided to do and the intention that they're holding so beautifully, so powerfully. And so, yeah, I think about like those are the moments when you feel alive. Those are the moments I feel most alive, is when I can align to that and that expression just magnifies from there. And having that contrast then helps me in the moments where I'm just like, oh, I'm drudging through hard adulting stuff or just, the inner fighting of my conditioning that wants to keep me small and say no to being seen more visibly in what I feel called to do, right? And it's just over and over again making the choice to follow the whisper and lean into what for me feels most alive in the moment.
Yeah. I hear that as a practice of almost like reverence and honoring of what is, right? It
Hmm.
might be pain, it might be truth, it might be purpose, it can be all sides of that, disco ball of humanity. And then choosing what you want to orient to through your agency, right? Your agency allows you to decide where you want to devote your focus, your energy, your
Love that.
attention.
Hmm.
And and
Hmm.
I think that's part of why I believe in a regulated nervous system being some of the biggest activism we can do is we have to be regulated to hold that kind of perspective. If we're in
Hmm.
reactivity or fear, it is binary. That's literally
Hmm.
just what the brain does. I'm telling you things you already know, but I'm telling our listeners, right?
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
building that inner capacity to just have breath between our thoughts, to then
Oh,
have the awareness that you're talking about of,
yes.
oh, this is rooted in ancestral conflict that I carry within myself. Whew, let
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
breathe and expand to hold that. And then
Yeah.
you can look at what's going on in the world and go, wow, that is excruciating to observe humans being this way with each other.
Yeah.
And I am taking my boys to go be in the frequency of a
Hmm.
community of people who are choosing loving kindness.
Hmm.
They both
Hmm.
exist in
They
my
both
world,
exist.
in my
Hmm.
body, in my brain.
Hmm.
And to me, I've said to be human is to be a walking, talking paradox. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
the sooner we can just get on with realizing that we are the holy both and on just about all scenarios, whether our
Yeah.
ego likes it or not,
Right. Right.
that gives us, it's so ironic and it's so
Mm.
brain bending. That is what gives us capacity to bring our
Mm.
sacred craft, to
Hmm.
connect authentically, to, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
create ripples in the quantum field that are
Right.
felt more than spoken, even,
Right.
like,
Right. Yeah.
and I just,
Mm.
it's a new, talk about sacred craft. There's so much nuance and messiness and trial and error and delight and cold chills of rightness. Like there's all this stuff with it. And I I really just
Mm.
appreciate you being such a beautiful model of that holy both
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
age, like the honesty and the agency in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was coaching someone recently about this idea of inner agency, and they were having a really tough problem. Like, I mean, they weren't, it wasn't a problem, but they were intellectualizing. They were trying to create, a replicate the power dynamics that we have out in the world as like to their inner self instead of just a surrendering to like what is natural and true and core to you. Again, like that body wisdom, that deeper soul self knowing. Um, and I also think about it as ancestral knowing can also be a thread of that inner whisper or that inner agency. And there's a lot of conditioning that particularly women idea socialized folks, right, have to unpack and have to divest from over and over and over again in order to really embrace like what that inner agency is. And I don't think it's a destination journey. I think it's one of those like moment to moment. In this moment, I feel pretty good about centered in my agency. In 20 minutes when I'm cooking and something burns on the stove, exactly, maybe look a lot
Yeah.
different. So yeah, so I was coaching her about like, can we soften the access point so you're not feeling like I've arrived, but it's more about just like, let me lean in here. Like, where in my body does it still feel tense and maybe unsafe to even give myself permission to own myself? Honestly, that was an affirmation I had for years as I was doing a lot of the energy spiritual cleansing of my genealogy, was just like, I own myself. The world doesn't own me, right? These systems don't own me. And that alone is such a healing practice for, I think, particularly for women, for women of color who have been told their whole lives that someone else owns them, right? Is responsible for them, controlling them. And we hear it all around the discourse of, the laws controlling women's bodies. Like, we don't give your agency to the law. Like, that is not where your power is sourced from. This is just a social agreement that we have to live in this country. And not an agreement that we're agreeing to at the moment, right? But like, it is just a constant ongoing practice to be like, where am I sourcing my own power, and how can I call it back from these things that I've been conditioned to give my power away?
Yeah. I want to make a little bridge because
Mm,
we decided we were going to talk a little bit about human design
yes,
as part of this.
yes.
I'm intending to weave it in with some of my guests because I just think it's such a cool support. But before that, I feel called to name something that Richard Rudd, I don't know if you've played with the gene keys at all. It's kind of an
Mm-mm.
evolution of human design. It's a more
Okay.
contemplative, it's similar and different. And he said in a podcast I was listening to something that I think speaks to what you've been saying and the conversation we've had is that healing and kind of becoming who we were always meant to be, coming back to our
Mhm.
design, is really just a process of softening. It's this
Mm.
ongoing process of softening. And one of the things that I've realized is whenever my word of the year was soft. And
Oh,
I didn't really know why. It just was the word that came and was really clear. But it was
yeah.
my guide because everywhere I have a hard edge
Yeah.
points to something that needs love,
Yeah.
compassion, healing, or
Yeah.
integration.
Yes,
It's
yes, yes.
armor that I don't choose to carry forward. And a lot of it was
Mhm.
armor with myself. I couldn't hear myself through the
Mm.
hardness. I had to soften
Mhm.
into curiosity. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I hear that in this
Mhm.
conversation that there's a
Mhm.
lot of hard shit going on in the world. There are
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
hard edges
Right.
and that's not to be denied. But
Yeah.
how can we be a force of internal softening
Yes.
and
Right.
and
Right.
softer ripples because I think those ripples are an invitation
Yeah.
that people may take or not, right? It's
Yeah,
all they have their own
absolutely,
choices, but
right? They might not have the capacity, or they might not
totally,
gauge that it's safe for them to do so. I get it, heard that.
totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's a I want to I want to be I've got hella fire. I mean, I'm Leo
Mm-hmm.
for days, but I want to be like a campfire. I want to be soft in it, you know? Not like a hot
Not
poker.
a forest fire.
Yes. So so
Love that.
I
Love that. Thanks
remember
for sharing.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with you on your porch when I was on my magical road trip about human design. And I was like, do you know about human design?
Hmm.
And I think you
Hmm.
said, no, or kind of. And I was like,
Yeah.
woo, woo.
I know. No, it was like early in the journey. It really was so delightful to have you steer the path.
So first I want to just hear what's it been like for you
Hmm.
to journey into understanding
Yeah.
your design because I'm really cautious about archetypal tools because I think a lot of them just serve as forms of control and boxing.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're this, oh, you're this. And to me, human design has been a guide of toward inquiry, a guide
Hmm.
to see parts of myself that are true that I wasn't able or willing to claim without a little bit more of a map. And I'm curious
Mm.
what your journey has been like so
Hmm.
far.
Yeah, I love that question so much. And I would describe it as a softening. It's been a
Mhm.
softening to these edges, these harsh, harsh inner edges of self-criticism about why I am the way that I am, and it's so hard to operate in this world. Like there was just it offered a pathway of deeper self-acceptance and a value even, right? Because I began to see how and in y'all's book particularly how like all of the gifts of each type and design are so uniquely and beautifully made. And I could just, it allowed me to be in like just greater appreciation for the vast brilliance, right? That is life, that is humans in all of our complexity and grossness and beauty. And so I think that was the first level of softening, was just like, ooh, look at all these jewels. We're all just shining in all these different beautiful ways. Okay, all right, I can get with this. I can get with this. And then for me and just understanding like a deeper sense of, you know, what feels natural and true to me as skill set, even in the optimized, commodified way, right? But it did help me like see that as like these are real skills that other people don't see. And I need to stop dismissing and devaluing these things that I can do. And that really launched me, I think, in a different direction in my business, in my offerings, even in how I was relating with my family members, because I stopped trying to get people to think the way that I was doing things, right? And that was a great relief to me because I was just like, I don't, this isn't serving me, it's not serving you. Let me just
Yeah.
not do it. Like it would be better if we're, let's choose some other behavior here. And so that has been really, really such a great gift. So yeah, I'm excited to any other reflections you have for me, but it has been a beautiful journey that is and I hear what you're saying about like a lot of other assessments because I've taken all kinds. But this one has been a true gift
Mm.
in helping I think give me a framework or appreciation, a deeper appreciation for what I am here to do and how I am doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I will say the caveat, if anybody is exploring if they hear this and go, "Ooh, I want to find out human design," there are still plenty of human design people that are boxing people
Oh
in.
yeah.
So
Oh yes. Oh
that was
yes.
part of
Yeah,
my
I've seen
initial.
them. Yep, experienced it. Yes. And then I was just like, let me just stay around Megan. Like I don't need to go. I mean, actually I did well anyway, yeah, I did find a couple of other readers and interpreters and coaches, right,
Yeah.
who I feel like are very um unique, like they bring a really beautiful cultural perspective. So you have your cultural perspective, and then there's another teacher, Asha, that has this beautiful Indian perspective on Hindi, HD, and then another one who's based in Mexico that has another like Mayan based interpretation. So like I'm all for that, and they've been amazing to learn from. So yes, discernment. Find your
Yeah.
teachers.
As with anything, as with
Anything.
anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have your chart here, and I thought it's a fun experiment. This is the first of my new kind of guest series. So I'm playing with how I want to work this in. So
Yeah.
y'all who are listening, this may be different every time, but welcome to me. But given our conversation, now I'm going to look at your chart and see what aspects of your design seem like they would be supportive or affirming of kind of what you're saying, just because honestly, it's fun.
That's fun.
And this is meant to be fun. This isn't meant to be a reading. But what I want to name is something you wrote in your initial document you submitted to prepare for our conversation, which was about some of your open energy centers.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got but so the two centers other than your head center that are open. And when I say open, I mean there's not even a single gate defined. If you're listening and you don't know this human design jargon, don't worry about it. Just don't
Play along.
just listen and take what you want. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to know the jargon. But these two centers are the heart center in traditional, the heart chakra divided into two, right? So these are
Mm-hmm.
the two
Mm-hmm.
that govern that. And one is about identity and love, and one is about value and values. And the fact that those don't have a single gate and are wide open means that you are here to be deeply wise about identity, love, value, and values. And when I see that, I think, I mean, one of my favorite people, actually, I will say, the book I love about energy centers is by Robin Wynn, and it's called Understanding the Centers in Human Design. And she calls open centers God portals. And I love that
Oh.
because a lot of times in human design, they talk about open or undefined centers almost like this precarious thing, like, oh, you're really susceptible to conditioning, and oh, you got to be careful, and oh, you
Yeah.
absorb everybody else's shit. And like, yeah, that, yes, kind of, but how
Mm-hmm.
helpful is it to look at it like that? When I see this, I think, thank goodness you're somebody who has energetic practices, who is grounded in the earth to release some of the
Mhm.
energies that aren't yours at the end of the day,
Yeah.
who, because that means that you can hold space for people
Yeah.
to explore a wide range of who they are meant to be in this
Mhm.
world and who, like, it's natural for you because you've
Mhm.
tried on so many different identities on the buffet of life and you will continue
Mhm.
to. That's your
Mhm.
gift, that you can hold space for people to evolve moment to moment in their sacred craft, in their identity, and to
Mhm.
value them and show that it doesn't need to be static or defined to be of value. Your
Mhm.
existence makes you lovable and valuable.
Yeah.
Your true humanity makes you lovable and valuable. So that's what
Mhm.
comes up, which I love. But
Yeah.
then, because human design likes to give us a puzzle while it gives us an answer, the fact that your profile lines are 2-5, I find really interesting because, I look at a chart and I'm like, oh, that's their soul school. Oh, and that's their soul school. And that's their soul school. That
Mhm.
5 line is a leadership line. That 5 line
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
projection line, meaning I've said for a long time, I get real Star Warsy when I talk about the 5 line because basically people with a 5 line in their profile move through life being seen by others the way
Yeah.
that other person needs to see them for their growth.
Yes. Yes.
So
Right.
often people with a 5 profile line get just tons of projections like, oh, you're the savior, you have all the answers, or oh, you ruined everything, it's all your fault, right? Like there's, and sometimes people are popped on the pedestal and it feels really yummy until they are knocked off by that same person, right?
Yes.
That's a really
Yeah.
common thing. So for
Mhm.
you, I see this like people likely get attached to who they have decided you
Mhm.
need to be
Mhm. Mhm.
versus who you are because you're going to
Mhm.
change.
Mhm.
That open
Mhm.
G is like you might catch me on a Tuesday and I feel one way, you might catch me on a Thursday and I feel different. And that is all you. You are vast in who and how you can
Mm.
show up. And you're here to just be the energy of love in
Mhm.
the form it wants to be in a given
Mhm.
moment and say,
Mhm.
this is where my love is going. Follow me
Mhm.
or don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much.
But
I
I can
love that
imagine
so
there's
much.
tension, right? The
Absolutely.
humanity.
Oh, oh
So what does
yes.
that bring up?
Yes.
That's just a little taste because that's what came up for me. What comes up?
First, the God, did you call them God portals?
Yeah.
The undefined? Okay. I am going to, yes, embellish and receive that deeply because that, yeah, that it it resonates as true and it also like because I did have that interpretation from that undefined was somehow negative in some kind of way, right? Less than not enoughness or something. That at least that was my interpretation. So that really flips it to a place where even my gut is just like, absolutely. Yeah, you have a God portal right here. Always have, right? That just feels very, very true. So I love that. Thank you for that frame, that reframe. Yeah. And then the piece about the five and the perceptions of who how others perceive me and then want to keep me in that projection.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 marriages gone and done. And that was I literally, as you were describing it, I was thinking of the many, many marriage counseling sessions that I had in my recent marriage, where he was asking, I just want to hear her say, we're going to be together forever. And me saying, absolutely not, I cannot do that. I have too much integrity to ever say anything like that and the deep harm like he was hurt by it and I honored that he was hurt by it but it wasn't some it just I've never approached relationship from a place of together forever. I've never approached anything in my life
You're
attached
not
to
designed
forever.
to. You're
Mm-mm.
literally not
I
designed
am
to.
not. I love it. So I appreciate just like, yeah, yeah, having that clarification, even for myself to like embrace that aspect of myself as like, I want to keep evolving and growing and changing, and the freedom to choose that is what I desire the most. And many times I've made the choice of limitation to please other people.
Absolutely.
And now I'm in my 40s and I just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that stuff wears thin in the 40s. I mean, it's like you don't have enough to go
Mm-mm,
around
I
anymore. So
do
you got to
not.
be more discerning.
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things I'll just leave you with this, and I want to say everything in human design, we have all of the chart, right? No matter who we are, we have all of it. We
Yeah.
just have certain areas that it's almost like a leg of a chair that we lean a little bit more into, and we're
Mm-hmm.
called to be a little bit more wise
Mm-hmm.
about. So this that I'm going to say is about your design, but it might also apply to someone else who doesn't have this specific profile line. The five line is here to like follow your sacred craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also to egoically anchor in neutrality rather than
Oh.
rather than really getting excited about the positive projections and reflections. And that's what whenever I'm working with somebody,
Yeah.
again, especially female identified folks, like we are taught to be pleasing to the
Yeah.
world. It is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
addictive. There is a dopamine response. There's all this
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
And to be able to go like, take me or leave me is
Yeah.
the flex. It's actually the life
Yeah.
flex to go,
Oh.
you have strong feelings that aren't great about me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You have strong
Uh-huh.
feelings that are great. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Neither one. Right. Right. Like I'm
I'm
going.
going here. So I want to leave that because I think that might speak to other people as well.
Absolutely. I think often about like just applying this insight to my business relationships has
Yeah.
been such a deep learning because I then it's just another place to learn about like my attachments and where my fears are popping up and my right, but this particular lens about being neutral to client experience, like yes, we want to have an amazing experience, right? And serve you in all of your awesomeness. And I don't want to get attached to praise or to criticism, right? Because I want to keep going. I want to keep going on to see you evolve your work in the next form and to support somebody else in whatever their work is evolving into. And that has been such a good journey. Thank you for naming this. That really truly is my intention. And you almost have to, right, as an online business owner, to not get attached to the praise or the criticism because you will be stopped, right, by both. Mm,
Absolutely. And sometimes, especially with that kind of projection field aspect of your design,
yeah.
the somebody else having a strong feeling about you that
Yeah.
isn't maybe comfortable is maybe one of the biggest gifts they can get from you, which is a whole
Mm, mm,
reframe, right? Like
mm,
that could
mm.
very well be the most in service of their
Yeah.
evolution, right? Like
Um,
it's a whole
yeah.
shift. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop going into full on human design
I so
reading,
enjoy it
coaching.
though. I really
Just so
do.
good.
Anyone listening, go hire Megan for this. There's just so much depth and good insight to receive from it. So
Hmm.
great. I
It's
appreciate
just,
you so much.
oh, I appreciate you. And I want to close this conversation, one, with gratitude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing
Mm.
so honestly and sharing your wisdom with this community. I'm grateful. And because I believe in speaking what matters into the world, I would love to end with you speaking your imaginal vision
Mm.
for change. And that could be for you, for the world, who knows? Just see what wants to come, and we'll close
Mm.
there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Yeah, I what wants to emerge is this what feels like a rainbow orb encircling the whole earth and like presencing itself also in our own energetic field. And so there's like all these like bubbles, all these little bubbles around every single human, and then on the collective in this big, beautiful globe that we are so blessed to live upon. And the opportunity to create systems for thriving of all sentient beings, right? Like we have the capacity, it exists within us, and those imaginal cells want to see that unfold in this dimension, in this 3D reality. And so it is an invitation for us to create it in our own bubble. Where in my bubble can I create loving kindness for my own body, for all the many parts of myself that live in my psychology and mental self, right? In my relationships with the people around me. How can I cultivate a safe space within myself to be a contribution to that rainbow bubble? That's what is coming through.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Nina.